Hi kids, and welcome to the Secret Hidden Bunker in the Rocky Mountains and Dragon House Studios and this week's Triggered. I'm Michael Bain, and today I want to talk a little bit about a trend that I sort of stumbled into, which I thought was fairly odd. I realized that the last batch of snubby revolvers that I've seen, essentially small revolvers, 5 shots, 6 shots, a revolver that you might think of as either a backup gun or, hey, if you were a detective in the 1970s, that was your gun. But I noticed that instead of the usual 2-inch, 2¼ inch barrel, what I'm starting to see is more and more 3-inch barrels. And I thought, that is sort of an, I don't know, trend. That's what we might call it. I was also thinking of it in terms of an inadvertent revival, because for a long time, snubs were focused on, can you get it in your pocket? Is it little? Is it light? And now we've seen basically a revival, an inadvertent revival of the holster small revolver. Now what I've got in front of me here are 2 guns you've already seen. We've got some new guns coming up, but this is a Kimber K6, I think a TLE. It is a 6-shot 357 Magnum. Blow It is a gun that I told you before was a real surprise to me. It's a Charter Arms Professional 32 H&R Magnum, of course, 32 Magnum. And it's interesting. This gun here, the Kimber, was designed in conjunction with Grant Cunningham, who is one of the great living masters of the snubby revolver. Grant knows small revolvers. And the Charter was designed in conjunction with the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, who also have a really good handle on small revolvers. But my question was, why 3-inch? And before I answer that question for you, I want to talk a little about the Zen of snubs. When you look at different calibers in small revolvers, 38, 357, 32 H&R, 327 mag, maybe even 9mm, I don't see all that much difference. I do not see that much difference in terms of how well they work in actual violent situations, where I believe Greg Ellifrit spent a lot of time charting encounters, violent encounters, and how many shots it took to make the aggressor stop. Now remember, that's an important point. We are not shooting to kill. What we want as a defender is we would like the aggressor to stop. Stop what you're doing. Stop attacking me. So how do we get the aggressor to stop? Well, you've got a couple of different selections, but I have a very specific philosophy. And that philosophy can be summed up as shoot them a lot. Why not just 1 shot and wait? Because violence is a chaos system. How many rounds will it take to make the aggressor stop? I don't know. And it's going to vary from event to event. So the way I approach it is I will shoot until the aggressor stops, until the weapon that he has, she has, is on the ground. But what's happened over the years in the gun magazines is this endless, and I've done it myself. I mean, we're all going to like gun hell for this. Compare this caliber to that caliber, 125 grain to 147 grain, that to 180 grain down to a 90 grain. And we agonize over this. We shoot these groups, we shoot them through the chronograph, and then we arrive at these conclusions that are complete and utter crap. Sorry, it's just the truth. What you need to do is practice. And you need to actually practice a lot. And you need to adopt that mindset, to me, especially if you're carrying a gun that has inherent limitations. What are the inherent limitations of a snubby revolver? Limited rounds. I might have 19 rounds in my Glock. This one has 6. This one has 7. Some of the ones we're going to be talking about today have 5. You've accepted that limitation. Hopefully you understand how to, number 1, reload a gun. Number 2, carry a second gun. Some of the other drawbacks to them is in a heavier caliber, they're a bear to shoot. I won't lie to you. You got to hold on to these things. But you've accepted those limitations. So you have to tailor your techniques to address those limitations. Interesting thing about 3-inch barrels, they were hugely popular way back when. I mean, go back to the 50s. They were hugely popular length, but they sort of gave way to the 2-inch, 2 1/4-inch snubs because the snub was perceived as a pocket gun. And so a pocket gun, a 3-inch barrel, is just a little bit too long. It looks like you're happy to see me. You know, it has this kind of a little bit harder to conceal. And with these guns, most of these guns are a little bit heavier than your traditional snubbie. Say a Ruger LCR Smith & Wesson J-frame, fill in the blank, one of the really small snubby or lightweight snubby revolvers. These guys, for example, these two are in the 23-ounce range. What that means is if you drop them in your pocket, you're either going to have to join a hip-hop band, go to prison, or, I don't know, maybe join a gang, because they're going to pull your pants down. They're heavy. You just say, well, 23 ounces isn't heavy. Carry it around all day. It turns out it is, in fact, heavy. So just quickly, this gun, this Kimber K6, if you were going to compare snubs to cars, this gun is a Ferrari. This guy down here is a Toyota Camry. Not as flashy as a Ferrari, but you know what? It'll get you to work. Hang on, got some new guns to show you when Triggered returns. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Taurus USA, designed to protect. Franklin Armory, the most innovative guns in the world. Volquartsen, engineering the world's finest rimfires. And Lipsy's Gun of the Month. Welcome back to Triggered, and this is a gun that I've really been looking forward to getting. It is from Taurus, and it is an 856 Defender. Now, if you'll remember, go back, I don't know, a year or two ago, I was able to go to Florida initially, and then later we went back to Georgia and looked and see how things were going on, and shoot a lot of Taurus revolvers. I am a big fan of Taurus revolvers. They are a sponsor, just to clarify, but I have always been a big fan of Taurus revolvers. I think they're a really excellent balance between price and utility and finish. Well, if we were going back with the car analogy here, you know, I'm going to come down that this is a kind of a Mini Cooper of a gun. It has a lot of utility. I think it looks really good. It's a 6-shot 38 Special Plus P. Now remember what I said in that first segment. We're not going to agonize over what caliber is it, because I can assure you that any of these calibers will do the job if you do your job. That's kind of the key point of it. But when I was down with Taurus, looking at prototype guns and stuff, I was down there also with a friend of mine, Rob Garrett. You may know Rob as the king of all snubbies. And I keep calling him that, and he hates it. But in fact, Rob has as much experience running snub-nosed revolvers as anybody I've ever met. And so Rob and I spent a lot of time with all these Taurus snubs on the table and great big stacks of ammunition. And to be honest, we used it all. Between Rob and I, we shot it all up. And our net, if you will, coming off that experience is, he said, and I said the same thing. I said, you know what? That's not a bad snub. It's a pretty good snub. It's a snub at a very reasonable price, and we found them to be accurate. We found the trigger pulls to be pretty good. Snubs are always, well, not always, but a lot of times with snubs, you're going to see a stacking on the trigger as you pull through it. It'll stack a little at the end. Only some of the newest guns, like the Ruger LCR, which designed a completely different trigger system to avoid that stacking. Or similarly with like the Colt Python and Colt Cobras, they've done a lot of work to have that trigger not stack at the end. But they had really good trigger pulls. And we were shooting 38 self-defense ammo. We weren't shooting pop gun stuff. And again, the ergonomics were good, by which I mean it didn't kill the back of your hand at all, which I think is important, because a lot of times they will. But the ergonomics are good, grips are good. One of the things, I think these are Hogues, one of the things that Taurus has always done is spec really good grips on their small guns, really excellent. So we shot the little snubs, and then Taurus said, hey, you know what? What the world needs is a 3-inch snub with one more round. So there's the Defender. I think it looks great. I mean, I really like flat black. I would go with 18% flat gray, but no one on earth wants a gun that color except me. But Taurus did a lot of things right with this gun. As I mentioned, your trigger, pretty good. I think I clocked it out at 13 pounds, which is, oh, it's really heavy. Not really. I mean, virtually every snub on this table has exactly the same trigger pull. It got a really light single action trigger pull, but you don't care about that except in very specific situations, right? As I said, the grips are good. The ergonomics are good. One of the things about snubs is it's hard to screw them up. You kind of got to work to screw up a good snub. But I like the barrel. I like the full underlug on the barrel. And here's something they did that I thought was kind of cool. Is the front sight there is a night sight, but it is surrounded by bright orange. Something we've seen on XS sights, the big dot sights, blah, blah. But that's a really handy setup. You know, that works well because you don't need the two night sight things here. What you need is the night sight in the front. And during the day, orange works pretty well. You know, you do pick up orange very, very quickly. So I haven't even shot this gun yet. I've been waiting for it to come in. And, you know, with the coronavirus, with the, I don't know, earthquakes, volcanoes, all the crap that's going on in 2020, guns are not necessarily rocking in here. So I'm going to actually take this out this afternoon and do some shooting with it. It's a good idea. Once again, it's a holster gun, not a pocket pistol. And since it's a holster gun, I got a holster. This is a Galco Combat Master. It is one of the best holsters on earth. It is, in effect, a high-ride pancake holster for revolvers. You can get it for semi-autos. You'll notice it has a small cant forward. We would refer to that as an FBI cant because that's what their revolver holsters always were. It's a very common holster design. Galco does a wonderful job with it. You've seen my custom one for the Kimber. This is from Kirkpatrick leather, and it is strictly a straight-out custom holster for me. But you'll notice the similarity in design. And if you look at the top holster makers, you're going to see a lot of that similarity. Combat Master is a great holster for a 3-inch snub. Why? Because it's high ride. You can put this on your holster. It's an outside the waistband holster, and you can throw a shirt over it, and it conceals, just like pretty much every detective in the 1970s. This particular holster fits a lot of different guns because basically the 3-inch snub, medium-sized small frames, are about the same. So I'm looking forward to shooting this gun. I'm looking forward to shooting it with Plus P, but you know what? If I had to carry this gun with 148 grain wad cutters in it, it wouldn't bother me in the slightest. So hang on. When we come back, we're going to take another look at the revival of the 3-inch snub.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series, so fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Welcome back to Triggered and our 3-inch snub special. And this one really is special. This is Ellipses Ruger SP101, 3-inch barrel, adjustable sights, gold bead front sights. And just look at that. I mean, that's a really pretty gun. In fact, when Jason Klosner at Ellipses called me up and said, hey, we're going to do a 3-inch SP101. I'm like, nah, there are 3-inch SP101s out there. And he goes, no, this one's going to be beautiful. It's going to be blued. It's going to have adjustable sights. It's going to have that gold bead front. And it's going to have a half lug. And I said, okay, the first one's mine. And it took, again, a while. Obviously, if you think about it right now, every single gun manufacturer is selling every single gun that they can make. Do you want to introduce a new product now? No, you don't. You want to fill your orders. But I told Jason that I thought this had the potential to be just a great gun, maybe the ultimate carry on your hip carry pistol. And maybe a little bit of history is in order here, just on the SP-101 and Bill Ruger. Ruger, in the old days, when Bill Ruger ran the company, he was really interested in market research as long as it was only him. He was the only market research that mattered. And in the 60s, he noticed that every cop in America had either a Smith & Wesson or a Colt revolver on their holsters. This is before semi-automatics. And he finally said, maybe we should make a revolver for cops. And they did. They made the Security 6 and the smaller version Speed 6. And those were guns, I think they came out in like early 70s, 72 sticks in my mind. 357 revolvers, 6-shot 357 revolvers, overbuilt for the time, but they were in 357 because 357 is what the police departments wanted. Well, one thing that Ruger noticed is something that they didn't expect. People shot the heck out of the Speed 6s and Security 6s. And they shot them with full-bore 357 ammunition. And Ruger discovered exactly the same thing as Smith & Wesson. Remember, Smith & Wesson made their K-frame, which was their mid-size frame in the Model 19 357, Model 66, and stainless steel. And they discovered when you shot the living heck out of it with full-bore 357 Magnum loads, it loosened up. So Bill Ruger did what Bill Ruger does, is he designed new guns. And he over-designed them into absolute tanks. And in, I don't know, depends on which book you read. Around 86, 87, 88, Ruger rolled out the GP100 in 357 and the SP101 because Ruger had gotten a lot of pressure from their fans, from people who liked the Ruger line, said, why don't you have a snub? And by golly, Bill Ruger made a snub. He made a snub that is almost always referred to as a tank. This gun is a tank. 27 ounces, 5-shot, 357. It's the only snub that I will actually shoot a 357 out of because it won't totally kill you. But generally 2 1/4-inch barrels. Over the years, they came in like half a dozen calibers, 22, 327, 9mm, 38 dedicated 357. They came with lots of different varying length barrels. This is my go-to SP101. To be clear, this is a full-blown custom SP101. It was built by Grant Cunningham, who we mentioned earlier in the show as one of the masters of the snub revolver. Before he became a full-time trainer and writer, he was a gunsmith, specializing in small Rugers. And this was one of the last ones that he ever did. So this is a great gun, one of their bobbed hammer models. Grant tuned it up just about perfectly. And I've had it a long time, and I hate it that Grant doesn't do these revolvers anymore. But, interestingly enough, got a super smooth trigger pull. But that trigger pull is not as good as this gun out of the box. This gun is probably the best SP101 that I've ever handled. And I think I've had 3, 4 over the years. They come and go. But this gun has, for lack of a better word, an elegance to it. If you look at it, you go like, wow, there's something about that gun that is pleasing to the eye. It doesn't have what I think of as the Ruger clunkiness. A lot of times you look at Ruger designs and you go like, wow, you know, you missed the last 50 years of firearms design. They work 100%, they're accurate, they're super, but yeah, sometimes. But this SP101 gets around all that. It's a beautiful gun. I think it may be maybe the ideal expression of a holster packing pistol. You're out in the woods, you want a gun to carry, you've got a lot of latitude with it. You can carry it with Buffalo Bore Outdoorsman 357, which are frightening, or you can carry it with 38 plus P. Excellent gun, and 3 inches. So anyhow, I'm not sure that 3-inch revolvers are taking over the world, but they are a really interesting option, and I think a really good option for a lot of people. I don't automatically say, oh, women need to get a revolver. No, but revolvers have their uses. They are more reliable than semi-autos. They don't require a second piece, e.g. a magazine, to work, because it's a mechanically operated tool. It will take whatever rounds you can stuff in it. Light rounds, heavy rounds, short rounds, revolver don't care, whereas a semi-auto would. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at the revolvers. And by the way, if you go to michaelbain.tv and look at the Michael Bain blog, I've got a whole article on these 4 revolvers. It has all the specs, all the histories, everything that you want to know there. That's something I'm going to try to do a little bit more of in the future. So you see the videos, but you want to know more about the gun, hey, go to michaelbain.tv, check out the blog. You might as well subscribe to the podcast. Find us on there. We'll see you next week.